Okay, welcome. I don't even know what episode we're on, but we are well on our way to system override longevity, I guess. The two things have happened today. I can't remember what episode, and Bri is wearing a hoodie. Forget about dressing up on Fridays anymore.
Yeah, we're not dating anymore, we're married. This is the true look right here.
I love that. It means that you're feeling comfortable. We're getting good feedback from the audience. They love the show. So here we are. We're ready to just be authentically our
You
Friday
accepted
self.
me for who I am, and so now I'm really just gonna take it to the next level, so you really know what you're getting into before you put a ring on it.
I
Or you
love
put
it.
the ring on it and it's already there. I don't know.
Okay, so this week we've got some really cool stories. It is amazing to me every week how just more and more stories about people, AI, and workforce, are always percolating and giving us such great things to talk about and give our perspectives on. But before we do that, how did your action go from last week where we talked about documenting your performance and really thinking about the things you accomplished? How
Yeah.
did that go?
It was really good, actually. It was good in the sense I needed it for 2 things, I would say. I especially got 2 things out of it. 1, it was a super busy week and a mix of good and bad, as it always is, and good and bad, or highs and lows, however you wanna say it, of things just working through, startup life. And so documenting those things and making it really intentional actually really helped me with tying back some of the wins of the week and just, like, we were joking of like, what's the positive one that we have out of this for when it's a hard week? And so for one, the reflection of that was like able to put me in a place of like, yeah, hard things happen, but good things happen all the time as well for us. Like, and it's just all interspaced. And so sometimes you can lose sight because I think as people, we just anchor on the negative naturally, biologically. It's like the threat awareness. And so like for me, that really helped. And also just like being able to see and tie together some of the things I've been working on as far as skills, and then starting to see that translate into the things that I did this week. And then
That's
just
awesome.
tying that together for me. It's just like, oh yeah, I crushed out, like when I looked at my to-do list, there was like a lot of things I crushed out that were associated to something I was really working on. And so I'm like, oh, I've obviously gotten over that discomfort hump because, when you're like still not proficient yet where you want to be or fully comfortable, it can
Mhm.
feel a little bit like you're in quicksand, right? When you're trying to progress towards something. And through my activity of like working on that, but then identifying and like looking at what I did, I was like, Shan, I think you've reached proficient level or comfort level where you're like really crushing this out now at a faster pace. And so I could see that delineation, which I was happy about. How about you?
Yeah. You know what? I think that's really the purpose of this action, right? Was our intention of seeing that progress is you have to be intentional about it. Because similar to you, as I put this into action this week, you really did get to see where something like maybe didn't go the way that I had wanted it to. But when I actually stepped back out and looked at some of the things that happened that we got to that spot, there's definitely things that I would do differently, but things that we did and we held true to because, so it's easy to forget about why you did certain things and the impact that those were going to have. And if they hadn't have been sort of written down, documented, and you wouldn't have them to reflect on.
Yeah.
And so that's what I found was really helpful, in the week in knowing what those little incremental things were that
Mhm.
got you to the maybe the bigger piece like you just talked about.
No, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So good news is we're going to take that theme into this week's articles because what we saw, I think, when we pulled out some of the articles this week was this theme about where do humans fit into this whole ecosystem of work, which they should be the main player, right? Like we talk about tech and we talk about the structures and how businesses are doing and economies and all that stuff, but ultimately humans can rise up and humans can teach themselves how to become proficient at things. And so I'm really excited to jump into this week's articles because that theme is so interesting and I think a miss amongst many of the main places where we get information and news. What do you think?
I would highly agree. I feel like there's a lot of, I mean, I think this is just the tone in general. There's a lot of narrative attached to things that is sometimes just narrative. It's like what's beneath the narrative. And so I would agree. And I'm excited to get into some of these topics.
Well, let's talk about Mr. Zuckerberg then. It's a good place to start off.
I mean, we
So
all know.
yeah, last week at his quarterly meeting, he talked about announced to the team that he was going to start to flatten his organization and be able to work with really subject matter experts, and high performers were really starting to elevate in his company. And interestingly, when I read that, I'm like, that's awesome. Like, that's what we've been thinking about. When I saw the article, though, it positioned it again back to less people, more AI.
Mm.
And what did you think about this topic?
That's the thing. We have been talking about the elevation of the individual contributor and that subject matter expert, really important person, decoupling the tie between career progression and leadership roles. In order to progress and to, be rewarded, that you have to start having organization underneath of you. There are some Every company has these individuals who are incredibly important to their company, who are hugely instrumental into driving it forward, who might not be best suited as a leader. And then not, either not rewarded for it, and then that creates its own problem of dissent and unmet expectations and lack of trust, and then eventually that person leaves because it's like, well, what am I doing here? I'm trying to move up, and I'm like one
Right.
of your top people, but because you won't let me lead people, I can't go somewhere. Or conversely, you're putting someone who absolutely should not lead anyone, but is an incredible, either should not or does not want to. Because I think there's two things there. There's some incredible people who don't want to be a leader and don't get to have that impact on the organization because they just don't want to go that track, but they're incredible. Or you have people who are put into leadership positions, and I think that's where we see this a lot, where they shouldn't be a leader. And so I love that is starting to come into the narrative around promoting individual contributors. I think what's unfortunate is that it's still creating this narrative that we're at a place where AI can just boot out at scale so many people. And by people, I'm worried that that might be leadership in a way. You know what I mean? And so I'm curious to hear, what do you think?
Yeah, so we have talked about it over and over again that we believe that part of this AI evolution will definitely highlight the importance of individual contributors, and still need leaders, because you still, there's attributes that great leaders bring to the role, but making sure that the leadership you have are great and are really skilled at being leaders, and there's value in those leaders. What I think is missing, though, in this article is that, don't we think that if certain activities leave the preview, and AI can take care of those things, or humans can use the AI to, level set on certain like knowledge elements,
Hmm.
don't we think the humans actually going to use their brain to in a different way to elevate themselves? Because in technical other technical evolutions that we've gone through in the last century, we have seen humans elevate and learn new things. When we went through the Industrial Revolution, where 90% of the population were farmers,
Yeah.
they didn't just all like wither up and not do anything. They
Yeah.
all learned the new skills of building machinery, or the trades that are required for all the technological innovation that happened post industrial revolution. And the same things happened as we moved through the early late 90s, early 2000s, where we saw this technology boom and building software and all that stuff. Like, people didn't know how to build software. That wasn't a common job in the 80s. It's
Hmm.
definitely a common job today. And so humans can learn just like AI can learn. It's going to learn different things, and it's going to be able to learn things that we haven't learned before. And I think it gets lost in this story.
Well, and I wonder too, like to that comment you're saying around like AI can do, it can, but I wonder because it's such an unknown for us as far as where it will take us. Cause I think we were chatting
Hmm.
before, this is a theme we're going to see through these articles, is it's a lot of um, mindset that's all about contracting and almost feeling like buckling down a little bit from the human perspective instead of like you're missing the holistic story of like what the opportunity or the expansion is going to be from these into new industries. And is it because it's such a question mark because things are changing so fast that industries, companies aren't necessarily, because it's like when everything's working and leveled out with AI, after
Mm.
we're through this, like we talk about the empowerment of people and how people are still a huge role of that. But it's like how you work with it. But for lack of understanding where it's going to take us, is that why it feels like there's a little bit of a shrink mode for everyone as far as like it's just replacement tactics? It's like one for one, not 1+1=2. It's like we have to trade. And I'm
Yeah.
just curious, like, where that trade mentality is coming from. And if it is just rooted in unknown and risk and like insecurity.
I think that would be common in
Yeah.
any type of change. I'm sure that we had similar type of commentary even as we transitioned from one century to another, right? Like there was a whole bunch of concern about the data not transferring properly when we went from 19 to 20 and what that was
Y2K,
going
what a
to.
time.
Right? Yeah, and like, and lots of energy and effort and money went into that, making sure that
Yeah.
that didn't implode on us.
Yeah.
And I think we're in the same thing. That change monger, like change will always make people feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortableness will put some doomsday kind of rhetoric into the market. And hopefully through this conversation, we can help people distill out that there are some really great things and that humans still are at the top of the pyramid for a reason
Hmm.
because we do have that ability for our brains to learn new things and take on things and forget the way of doing old things. Like I used to be able to knit. Sorry, mom. I know
Me
I was never
too.
very good at it, but right? I
I don't
don't know how to
remember though.
knit now.
No, I don't remember.
Although I hear knitting's back in.
I
I
know. I
might
was
have to
like,
pick it
can
up
I
again.
do it? I know. I used to know how to do all that stuff. I could crochet, I could knit, I could sew. I have a sewing machine in the box downstairs that I haven't actually opened, but you know.
I do sew still once in a while.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I think it's one I there's some positive things and that's where we're really like leaning in on is like we're seeing some trends around the movement and the thought of team and how that team structure needs to be, which I think is creating positive openings like this individual contributor
Yeah,
uprising. I
I
think what
love
we're
that.
still up against is larger narratives just around unknown. And I think there's a lot of macro impacting that as well, like at a global scale where things are. I think everyone's just in a bit of a protect mode and in a bit of investor confidence building mode, of those things that are driving some of these narratives. But I think what we're saying is, there's still very much a place. And in the conversations we're having, like, how can we help people navigate through that, maybe level set, and also like have some resilience through this and knowing we're all in it together. Like, we're all
Yeah,
in this together. We're all in these headlines and seeing these things together, but there is a path forward for us to manage ourselves within that. And you can always, through any change or adversity, you can always whoop, or you can
yeah.
level out, or you can. And so we're
I
trying to
might
say, you
go
know,
up and down.
we go up and down, but like I like to stay in that steady Eddie middle. And so, how can we help people feel confident and community in that
Yeah.
conversation?
Agreed. And I think then, so let's turn into the next story we found, which is the exact opposite. It is really about the core traditional skills not being available. So, there's an article around the Ford CEO who came out and said that he has 5,000 unfilled mechanic jobs
Mm-hmm.
available. And that is a huge number. And the fact is that there aren't actually people taking the trades. I think we saw this probably 5, maybe 10 years ago, as it
Mm-hmm.
identified that people were no longer choosing those roles and that there was going to become, a problem, a supply problem. But now these jobs are also very technically savvy because, as we all know, we're driving little computers all over the place.
Yeah.
And so, like, how do you think about this and how do we fix this?
Well, and like these are like not like I think people like have a tendency to think like blue collar trades is like not as sexy from a salary perspective. These are $120,000 a year jobs that they were talking
Mm,
about in the article. I know from own personal like investigating, if you own your own garbage truck and do that, that is a highly lucrative career. Plumbing, highly lucrative and very global. I think, like, I come from a trades family. Like, my family, majority of my family was in trades, and there was only a few, like, post-secondary educated people. Like, I think actually my sister and I might have been, like, the second and third people, like, in my immediate and, like, kinda that family. And I think, like, trades is we're all people and we're gonna keep people in and having people needs. And so, like, we keep driving, we keep going to the bathroom, we keep having houses, we keep like all of this infrastructure around us to live as people is not going away. Even when you go like beyond trades and into like medical or those kind of things, anything that's serving the human experience is not leaving. Now, there are things that are being optimized by tech or this or that. But I think like we're in tech, and I think there was such a swing the last little bit around, and I think it has to do with social media too. And this like idea of being like baller, I'm corporate, I'm fashionable, I'm downtown, I'm tech, and I'm cool. Like there's something around the persona tied to, and like I think that was very attractive to a lot of people who were coming up into their careers, because we know in the post secondaries that we have been talking with is like trades were down and not as many people
Yeah.
were being attracted to these programs, but they're very important roles. And I think, like, to tie all that up, it's like that's something that we talk a lot about in the sense of like, what do you want? What do you enjoy? What are you good at? And really leaning into that, regardless of a narrative that's sexy, unsexy, or whatever, like to you. I had a lovely conversation with a friend last night at a party. He was someone that we worked with in the past at tech, and he'd been through some really big companies, really cool things, working with brands. But now he is in retail and he's working at, I think it's like a jeans, like clothing retail store where with someone he really loves, and that they are older and might be moving out of, there's opportunity for him to grow into that business, maybe become a part of like even operating that
Wow.
business. But he's just like, apart from the business side, he just loves what he's doing now. But he said, um I just, when people ask me, it's like, oh, you still in tech, you still this, and it's like, no, I'm like selling jeans. And I was like, no, I fucking love that. I love that you have found, because he's always been into fashion and he's a very stylish guy and all that sort
Hmm.
of thing. And it's just like, I love that you have found something. You've tried the things, you've done your experimenting, you've gone around and you have found something. You love interacting with people, you love having that connection, you love having the cadence of your day in this way. This works really well with your lifestyle, with your partner, and that brings a lot of joy to your lives. It's very well compensated, just as good as some of his tech jobs. So, like, there's no, like, you're downgrading there. Like, I want you to celebrate that story because that's a win. And it makes me angry. And I hope you can hear the passion in my voice that people will look at something like that and not think it's a win because you're not
Yeah.
driving a fucking Lambo or, got this or that. And it's like, I know people like that too, and they're not very happy. And so for me, it's more, and this is just my own personal values coming out. It's like, it's about joy. It's about joy in your life. At the end of the day, that's all that matters is, did you spend your time here meaningfully? Did you do it in a way that aligned to the way you wanted to live your life? And if not, then that's the loss, that you
Mm.
sacrifice that. Like, that is where you lose. It's not in the title or the money or the this. It's like, if you lived a life like that, in my opinion, that's a life well led, and you should be getting a medal for that, because a lot of people don't get that because they're so caught up in this other shit. And so I am excited about them saying, hey, there's very attractive jobs here in the trades because we need of mindset of what good looks like,
Yeah.
and a more of a balance. I kind of went on a tangent there, but that's my opinion.
I love that because I do think that we've become very judgy about what somebody's career is. And like, if you say you are this,
Yeah.
then that might be seen in a better light
Yeah.
than somebody who's just like, I love working on cars and I want to fix them all day.
I'm passionate
And
about cars. I have a mechanical mind. That's
right.
cool. I can't do that.
Yeah.
When the
Yeah. Cause
apocalypse
if you
comes,
think,
you're gonna help me. I'm not gonna have any freaking skills. Like,
right. Yeah, and
yeah.
you think about it today, like the software engineer
Yeah.
and the car mechanic
Yeah.
have similar skills and knowledge because they're still both computers. And so I'm super excited about that change in narrative. I've been, and maybe I'm naive, but I'm a believer that in this AI ecosystem, the level setting that it allows us to do from a knowledge, access to knowledge does allow us more choice in
Mhm.
being able to look at the things that really make us happy. And I
Yes.
hope that at the end of the next, say, 10 years, we're able to look back and say that we are a healthier society because we had the time that we could really think about what makes us happy, work our lives and our careers into each other and make that like a harmony
Yeah.
versus, thinking about, oh, I hate going to work every morning. I can't get out of bed and all that. It breaks my heart. Like I'm fortunate that I've always been able to find work that really inspires me and I love doing. Doesn't mean it was always easy.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it wasn't stressful sometimes, but I really do love what I do. And but I know that so many people haven't been able to put those
Oh,
parameters in place. And that a lot of that is due to these society norms and
yeah.
these like where they were told that no, you're super smart. You need to go to university and you need to get all these degrees. But really what you love at the core of it is
Yeah.
fixing Ford cars
Yeah.
and wish that you were doing that every day
Yeah.
instead.
Well,
And,
and like
I'm super excited that we're changing this mantra
narrative.
a little bit.
And
Yeah.
everything you just said hits at such a personal level. Like my dad, I watched him. I watched my dad, go to work all the time in what he thought he needed to be doing, in that made him miserable. And he just hated that. Now, some backstory is my dad was an alcoholic and he had a lot of, personal and mental health and things of those problems it was just another thing, those were for other reasons, but also when you are already in a place where you have, things and then we all have them, right? We all have
All of
wounds, we
us,
all
yeah.
have things that hurt. And when you have hurts and then you also spend most of your time in a place where you are absolutely miserable, I watched that unraveling happen in real time before my eyes. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about alignment and joy because it doesn't just impact you, it impacts your family. Like I lost my dad when I was 26. I don't have a dad anymore in that way. And it's really sad. And so, with that, it's like not only did that impact him, that impacted his family, that impacted his whole life, his friends, how he showed up, his ability to, because I think we just get really rooted in career in our job because we spend so much time there. And so it is such it's a big part of people's lives. And so
Yeah.
because it's such a big part of people's lives, there's such an importance to be able to find that alignment for yourself in that. Like, do it for you. And if you're not going to do it for
Yeah.
you, do it for someone who's important in your life. And we certainly weren't happier with more money. You know what I mean? More
Right.
money came, it certainly did not make anyone happier. And I think living that experience in real life, it's like, what are those things like beyond what you feel like should make you happy, beyond what your Instagram stories, you feel insecure when you see somebody else have this or that. If you took those things away, what is that for you? And I think
Hmm.
that's the coolest thing of starting to, I mean, it's not cool that we have an issue with mechanics, but
Yeah, because it
what
probably doesn't disappear overnight.
no, but it creates demand, right? Like
It does.
it's supply and demand and we are low on supply and it will create demand. And then there might be some really great wins out of that. So I think that is something positive and interesting
Yeah.
to do that. Yeah.
And I really do think that as we work to solve this, like this starts to trickle into like even our, elementary through high school
Mhm.
type of education and really bringing back some of the trades into
Mhm.
schools and making sure that people think about these careers and we accelerate them going through and into these type of careers because again they're not going away and we need humans to elevate and these are complex vehicles that we drive now and it's
And
just
you might
isn't
also just love it. My back
yeah.
burner career when I'm done making tech companies is to go and learn how to build cabinetry and do all that because I love home renovation. And if I can build all my own stuff myself, that's what I'm
That'd be
doing in the next cycle,
perfect.
right?
Okay, everybody hear that? We're gonna build League, and then she's gonna
Furniture,
go build cabinet.
I can't wait.
It's funny. I'm starting to really get into like that building cabinets and or countertops and stuff that are all made out of
Concrete?
poly. The
Yeah, yeah,
yeah
yeah, yeah.
polyethylene stuff. That's
Yeah,
so cool.
it
So
is cool.
maybe
I
that'll
did do
we'll be able
concrete
to do it
countertop
together.
once. Yeah, I know.
Oh, my girlfriend does concrete countertops. They're beautiful.
Yeah, they're
They're
nice.
beautiful. Okay, we're off topic.
Okay, let's
But
go.
the glitch this week, this one's close to my heart because a story came out about the UK government starting to talk about a safety net for what will happen when AI takes over the world. I'm paraphrasing. And all the citizens don't have any jobs. And a government obviously is there and set up, and their responsibility is to take care of their people. But I'm not sure that thinking that their people are going to fail is the right place to be at the beginning of this journey. What do you think?
I mean, that it does feel exactly with what you framed up there, like a self-fulfilling narrative. You know what I mean? If you, again, it's that one for one replacement. It's not what can one. And so I think the counterbalance to this is like, you're right, government's job is to help. And so like you do need to be thinking about the risk and taking care of people in that picture. I think the partner conversation with this is what industry or opportunities is the UK government also investing in, or any government?
Right.
What are you investing in to lift up? Because again, this is following that same theme of like, shrinking and just holding the battle, grounds and like weathering the storm. And like AI is not going away. The progression of tech isn't going the way. And so what is that evolution of promotion of industry? Because there will absolutely be things. But again, it's that playing it safe. And we've seen big companies take big losses over sometimes setting flags and setting them too early, and it doesn't work well for them. And so there's this hesitancy for industry, for government, for whatever, to really say, this is where it's going, because what if we're wrong and then we lose and money's lost and this and
Right.
that. But I think that's the counterbalance in my mind, is like we're acting as if AI is going to eliminate entire things, and it might, but it's a displacement because there's going to be other new things. And I think for people, it's just knowing other new things are going to open up. Like just look like at any of, like, we're in tech, like prop tech is huge now, and that's become such a budgeting industry that didn't, like, even fintech, that we were both
Yeah.
previously in, that was not a thing. And then it evolved. And now there's like a lot of companies in the fintech space. And so again, it's just, there's going to be new. And so how can you really think about what that could be in the space that you're in, or in a transferable space is how I would think of it, to weather that. What do you think? Because I
Right.
know you feel passionately about, not stimulating. Like Shannon wants growth. Shannon wants, to create, not to shrink.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
and again, I don't think you want to completely not have a conversation about making sure that people that maybe get caught up in the AI transformation do, maybe temporarily need to reskill and stuff like that. I'm not saying that that isn't right, but
Hmm.
what about making access to capital, that same capital that you're going to invest in the downside, take it and make it so that people can go out and test these new industries, can access capital in a way that allows us to, like last week's story about the flying automobiles. Like, I don't know how many times this week I've talked about flying automobiles, but
Yeah.
those jobs did not exist. Right? And yet if we could get that industry off the ground, if it's something that is viable, why wouldn't we do that so that there'd be all these mechanics that need to work on these flying automobiles, or the data centers, right? Like, we just saw an announcement here in Alberta this week, 3,000 new jobs attached to a big data center going into central Alberta. And that is phenomenal. Where are those people coming from? How's the government? Like, the government was helping to get those jobs here
Hmm.
so that those that maybe are displaced from other things can go into working there. And that's the way that we start to make sure this transition happens, because then people feel really good about themselves and they're learning and they're developing and they're contributing to this, this evolution, and get and feel like they're part of the solution versus being a victim of the
Well, and
scenario.
it spurs other growth, like as every industry segment stands up, and especially if there's like tangible, like things attached to it, it's like, well, now you're going to have other services attached to serving that. So there's
Mhm.
going to be training set, learning about that. There's going to be, maybe there's manufacturing attached to that. Maybe there's, physical locations and workplaces that are attached to that. There's so many other things. And so I think, like,
Homes,
how do you create
home
that one
building.
plus one story for you? How do you make yours not a one-to-one risk of replacement, zeroing out, and how do you make that a one plus one equals two for you? And just know, like, a lot of the articles right now are focused on, we're in the messy middle. Like, we're in the messy middle right now of change. and it's uncertain and it's undefined, which can be scary. And a lot of what the news is putting out there is going to be really unsettling in that way. But just know, like, the middle's the middle, it's not the end. And so, like, we are in the messy middle of change right now, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to blossom into the next iteration. We just have to get through this
Yeah.
transition. And so, if that's the case, how can you enable yourself to create that 1 + 1 = 2 equation so you feel in control, or like you're supported, or that you have clarity, or a level of security in yourself, or just in the path forward for you, and like getting curious about that, I think, is important right now.
Yeah, I love that word curious because I think, again, if you want to think about how humans differentiate themselves from AI, that curiosity and that willingness to learn and to inform yourself, I think taking time every day to just dig into some of these things, what's changing, where the future could be. Again, we don't know with certainty exactly what will happen, but we are starting to see these new industries pop up. We're getting a clearer path on the impact that AI will have this year versus last year.
Hmm.
And it's going to be that way. We probably don't know a 10-year time horizon or what it would look like 10 years from now with certainty, but we're not asking people to go back and, take a whole nother degree to think about how they get to their next role or how they make sure that they are employable as evolution happens. Do that one little bite at a time,
Hmm.
one action every week, one thing that makes them, more use their brain from a curiosity perspective, take in more knowledge, just prepare yourself one at a time so that you are continuing to be employable,
Yeah.
whatever happens.
Well, and I love the way that you frame that in the sense of it's just small and one thing at a time. Because I think it's just like, oh God, how can I have to watch all these news feeds? I need to know, I need to research. And it's like, you don't.
Yeah.
Like, it's
No.
it's not going to happen as fast as we think, because at the end of the day, humans are still the ones implementing the change. And
Yeah.
so we're not, the robots aren't doing it for us yet. And so, like, it will take time for these things to materialize. Now, some things are happening quickly as far as layoffs and things like that. But again, curiosity in the sense of, like, just start. And it could be anything. It could be literally just watching, one certain thing. It could be just a certain topic. But I think the biggest thing is, like, even just curiosity in yourself, because if you know who you are and what you can bring to the table, then you can better understand, as these new things pop up and opportunities, what makes sense and where you can go when it might not look historically like your past resume, the same words or the same titles or even the same industry. I think that's important. Like, you think of a recipe, it's like, if I don't know if this is a banana or an apple, it's really hard for me to think about what I can make. It's like, well, can I make bread with it? Can I make muffins? Can I make, pancakes or this or that? And maybe that was bad example because they're two fruits. So maybe let's say I'm a banana or a steak, You can go very different ways. But once I know I'm a banana, it's like, oh, well, banana bread works, muffins work,
Yeah.
cookies. I can make a lot of things into a banana. If I'm a steak, well, that's different. Maybe I'm going to be a steak salad. Maybe I'm going to, become a burrito. There's so many different things, but until you know what you are, so random, I know. Just go with it, okay? I'm wearing a hoodie. Let's roll. But I think we get the point,
I
right?
think we get, I love it. I love how you make connections.
I think it's, like, more frightening. Everyone's just like, "Is that how your brain works?" It's like, yeah.
It does allow us a little bit more insight into your brain. That is for sure. But I think it's a great example of what we're talking about today because that is the beauty of the human brain is that we have the capability of pulling from all these different experiences to make something make sense for us, to figure out how that aligns to our heart and our emotions that allow us to get out of bed every morning and be satisfied and help others around us. Those things AI is not replacing. That ability to do that is not in the capability of AI today. Now, again, I'm not going to forecast the future, but at this moment, humans have always elevated above the technology. They've used it. It's in our psyche is to keep the human race living and viable, right? It is built into us, just like other animals in the kingdom. Everybody's animal is there to keep themselves alive And so we're going to use this technology to elevate and we have that capability to do that. Now, takes a little bit of work. Doesn't just like you're not going to lay in bed and it's just going to by osmosis fall on you and you're going to be, ready for it. You do have to do some work. I think it's kind of exciting. I think it's, sometimes terrifying. I'm not going to say it's all roses, you know, but it is definitely something that's exciting and new and really flexes that brain muscle that, we should all be using every day.
I feel like this was a real pep talk podcast theme today. I feel like maybe I don't even know if you guys need it or wanted it. Maybe we just need it. That was the space we were in after this week. We're like, we just need bolstering. It was a hard week. But I think I hope that people can take that away in the sense of all of these narratives, all of these things that we're distilling into is just find a way where you can create connections for yourself. Connections for what you offer to connections to what opportunities are coming up. And it doesn't have to be scary. It can be very small actions. And a lot of it's just about getting curious, either about the things that are happening around you or yourself. And yourself is always an important place to start. So don't forget about that part because you can't do the equation if you don't get curious about yourself too.
Exactly. So I think on that, maybe to your point about the pep talk, maybe this is how we got to our big ask for the week, which is really thinking about how does AI enhance your value proposition? And like, how are you going so this week, think about that. I would suggest documenting it as well, alongside all of those other success stories and performance, amazing things you're doing to see how your AI does that. And what do you think about what they should do with that ask this week?
I think it's just really challenging yourself to be brave in that circumstance, to be brave. I would say put on your expansive mindset hat. Let's think about opportunity. That's where we want to think about enhance. I think we all do enough worrying about what it's going to do in the wrong way. What is it going to do that enables you to shine or that enables you now to bridge to the next level? Or maybe you have a lot of soft skills around something, but you didn't have a lot of hard skills because you didn't take that education. And now that doesn't matter as much because there's tools that bridge, the coding, the this, the that now there's an opportunity for you to step into that space. I think that's a really exciting thing for people is it's taking away the I set my track on this train and now I can't jump into the other ones. It's actually creating a lot of opportunity for people to propel into other careers faster, easier, because the tech is doing some of the lift that if you were technically trained, you wouldn't have been qualified for. So I think there's some cool things to this that people can really look into. Yeah.
And you can use the AI to do the research.
Yeah, exactly. You literally don't have to get on ChatGPT deep research. You can even make
It's amazing what it does.
You want to make a reoccurring prompt? Just write it down and you can copy paste it if you don't know how to set it up. Just put in a prompt of I want to know more about this, this, and this, and then do it every week and see what comes up. And it doesn't have to be hard. I think that's the thing. Lean in.
I agree with that. I want people to feel like it's easy and exciting versus, now I got to sit down and I got to figure out all this whole thing. No, just one thing AI does to upgrade your value proposition. And
this isn't the 1999 encyclopedias on your bookcase work anymore. Go to the library and take out a study time. Let's just type in a prompt and you'll get some good insight.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's been a great week. I think I think the theme today was certainly that humans are amazing creatures and we still lead in this whole ecosystem that is being enabled by AI, but not being taken over by. And I love that mantra for us and that we'll continue to talk about this because it is important that all the humans in the world feel the value and that they are here to contribute in some way every day.
You know what? I just thought of something so cool. Maybe every week we have this mantra that we just say where it's like, you matter, you have value, and you just need to be able to tell your story and understand what your story is at that or something. That's not it. We'll take it to the people who know how to actually distill that better. But I feel like maybe there's something cool there. But you do matter, you do have value, and you just need to get clear on it.
Exactly. And then I will close on that if you have others that you think need to know that they matter and that are interested in what we're talking about, please make sure that you subscribe, share, follow this podcast, and join us every Monday when we release it.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.